The Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Now, here's Rob Carson.
Hello and welcome to episode number 36 of the Rob Carson Show podcast. I hope you're having an awesome day and night or whatever you're listening. Lots of stuff to get to. A lot of the show today is going to be on this Trump presser that happened on Thursday of this week. Wow. It was pretty wild and woolly, but we have some other stuff that's not necessarily political, but you had to marvel at the spectacle yesterday. Now, I'm not going to say I was all in. I loved every minute of it, but I will say that there were some high points and there were some, it got a little tedious after a while, especially eating CNN alive, even though I do believe they kind of deserve it. But it was very interesting, and we'll get into that. I do have a new website, in case you didn't know. It is at robcarsonshow.com, robcarsonshow.com. Also, I've got two Facebook pages, Rob Carson Show and Facebook at Rob Carson's Table. That is my food blog, because I like to cook. So let's get into a couple of stories here. Let's go ahead and just start with the presser, okay? Donald Trump yesterday came out and introduced his press conference. He introduced his new labor secretary nominee, and then began to kind of eat the media for lunch, even though he was sitting in front of the media. I mean, we've never seen anything like this before. This is professional wrestling. This is what I predicted when he was running, and one of the things that I said when he was it was pretty obvious he was going to be the candidate. I said press conferences and the State of the Union will never be the same again. Never be the same. Here's the beginning of his presser yesterday. We'll get into when he goes after the media, but here's just the start of it.
I don't think there's ever been a president elected who in this short period of time has done what we've done. A new Rasmussen poll, in fact, because the people get it. Much of the media doesn't get it. They actually get it, but they don't write it. Let's put it that way. But a new Rasmussen poll just came out just a very short while ago, and it has our approval rating at 55%.
Yeah, and it was at 55%. That's pretty darn good, because people have been saying he's below 40 and whatever. So it sounds like people are, his policies are resonating. I'll be interested to see after the presser what his poll numbers do.
And going up. The stock market has hit record numbers, as you know, and there has been a tremendous surge of optimism in the business world, which is, to me, means something much different than it used to. It used to mean, oh, that's good. Now it means that's good for jobs. Okay. Very different. Plants and factories are already starting to move back into the United States, and big league Ford, General Motors, so many of them. I'm making this presentation directly to the American people with the media present, which is an honor to have you.
Okay, and it was an honor to have him for about 3 minutes. All right, here he began to list some of the accomplishments that he and his administration have done in the first month.
We've withdrawn from the job-killing disaster known as Trans-Pacific Partnership. We're going to make trade deals, but we're going to have one-on-one deals, bilateral. We're going to have one-on-one deals. We've directed the elimination of regulations that undermine manufacturing and called for expedited approval of the permits needed for America and American infrastructure.
Good.
And that means plant, equipment, roads, bridges, factories. People take 10, 15, 20 years to get disapproved for a factory. They go in for a permit. It's many, many years. And then at the end of the process, they spend tens of millions of dollars on nonsense. And at the end of the process, they get rejected. Now, they may be rejected with me, but it's going to be a quick rejection.
Yeah.
Not going to take years. But mostly, it's going to be an acceptance. A
lot of that is about control, by the way. There's a lot of bureaucrat control. They like that. I don't know if you knew this. There's a bridge, I think it was in San Francisco. I heard a story last week. A massive repair on the bridge. The bridge could collapse, and it's a pretty good-sized bridge. They stopped the project because there was a hummingbird nest on the bridge.
We want plants built, and we want factories built, and we want the jobs. We don't want the jobs going to other countries. We've imposed a hiring freeze on non-essential federal workers.
Good.
We've imposed a temporary moratorium on new federal regulations.
I love that,
We've
too.
issued a game-changing new rule that says for each one new regulation, 2 old regulations must be eliminated.
Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that's happening that is very good. And then we got into kind of the crux of the rest of the presser, which was going after the media.
This morning, because many of our nation's reporters and folks will not tell you the truth and will not treat the wonderful people of our country with the respect that they deserve. And I hope going forward we can be a little bit different and maybe get along a little bit better if that's possible. Maybe it's not, and that's okay too.
Wow.
Unfortunately, much of the media in Washington, D.C., along with New York, Los Angeles in particular, speaks not for the people, but for the special interests and for those profiting off a very, very obviously broken system.
Okay, so talking about journalism, and it was interesting because he started off the presser by essentially separating himself with the American people from the media. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He says, I want to address the American people, and then he addressed the media. And he didn't say good things about it. I'll get into, let me see here. There's so much to get to on this. Let's go. He went after this guy, Jim Acosta from CNN. And CNN is biased, and there are a lot of people who were very upset yesterday in the media, and I would say butthurt by this. But, you know, they're all adults, and the nation's newsrooms, by and large, you can say unequivocally, favor Democrats. That's just the way it is. If you look at newsrooms around the country, over 80% of the people who work there are Democrats. You saw it with the money that was donated to the campaigns by news media. You see it in J schools everywhere where conservatism is shut down. That's just the way it is. And until media takes responsibility and does what the First Amendment asks it to do, which is to bring truth to power, I was glad that Donald Trump went after him yesterday. Here's the first exchange with Mr. Acosta.
You said earlier that WikiLeaks was revealing information about the Hillary Clinton campaign during the election cycle. You welcomed that. At one campaign rally, you said you loved WikiLeaks. At another campaign press conference, you called on the Russians to find the missing 30,000 emails. I'm wondering, sir, if you...
Well, she was actually missing 33, and then that got extended with a whole
maybe
pile.
My numbers are off a little bit, too.
No, but I did say 30, but it was actually higher than that.
If I may ask you, sir, it sounds as though you do not have much credibility here when it comes to leaking, if that is something that you encouraged during the campaign.
Ready?
If I may ask you that.
No, but let me do one at a time.
If I may ask a follow-up. Yes, sir.
All right. So in one case, you're talking about highly classified information. In the other case, you're talking about John Podesta saying bad things about the boss. I will say this. If John Podesta said that about me and he was working for me, I would have fired him so fast your head would have spun.
Now, yeah, he makes a good point. These were emails, and they were gotten by Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. There's no evidence right now that these were gotten by the Russian government. There is apparently some evidence that the Russians were attempting to hack emails and possibly mess with the election, but there is no actual proof that they caused Hillary to lose. It just did not happen, and there's no proof that they leaked the emails to Julian Assange, and Julian Assange says, basically, no, it wasn't the Russians. Here's a little more from Trump and Acosta.
Some of the things when I heard some of those things, I picked up the papers the next morning and said, oh, this is going to be front page. It wasn't even in the papers. Again, if I had that happen to me, it would be the biggest story in the history of publishing or the head of newspapers.
Now, this is about the email that showed that Donna Brazile, while working at CNN, had leaked debate questions to Hillary Clinton, and the press did nothing about it. CNN did nothing about it. This is something that should turn CNN upside down. And he also pointed out the fact that the Clinton campaign, they didn't say anything either. They just said, oh, yeah, we'll take them. Great. Unethical thing to do. The right thing to do would have been said, no. This is not right. A little bit more on this.
I would have been the headline in every newspaper. I mean, think of it. They gave her the questions to a debate, and she should have reported herself. Why didn't Hillary Clinton announce that, I'm sorry, but I have been given the questions to a debate or a town hall, and I feel that it's inappropriate, and I want to turn in CNN for not doing a good job.
There you go. That makes sense, and it should have been a gigantic story. And it would have been a gigantic story if somebody had leaked questions to the Trump campaign and he had them for the debate. It would have been, he would have been out of the race at that point. It's hard to say because he got away with so much compared to traditional Republicans. He got away with so much. He said so many things that otherwise would have killed a Republican campaign. Do you know why? Because normally the media is able to kill campaigns for a line. For instance, Mitt Romney's campaign essentially killed because Harry Reid said he didn't think that Romney had paid income taxes, and that was a lie. And the media didn't bother to even to look into it. But that killed the Romney campaign by and large. Here's a little bit more from Trump being accosted.
I watched this morning a couple of the network, and I have to say, Fox and Friends in the morning, they're very honorable people. They're very, not because they're good, because they hit me also when I do something wrong, but they have the most honest morning show. That's all I can say. It's the most honest. But the tone, Jim, if you look, the hatred, sometimes somebody gets, well, you look at your show that goes on at 10 o'clock in the evening.
I think he's talking about Don Lemon's show.
You just take a look at that show. That is a constant hit. The panel is almost always exclusive anti-Trump. The good news is he doesn't have good ratings, but the panel is almost exclusive anti-Trump.
Yeah, and there is a lot of that. If you watch CNN, and listen, the same could be said for Fox. I mean, if you look at the five, they're by and large, with the exception of Juan Williams, fairly conservative. But like with Greg Gutfeld says it with his, tongue-in-cheek. Gutfeld is a serious man, but he's also a non-serious man, and I love him, by the way. The same could be said for some of the other programs. They skew right, they skew conservative, but they have a panelist. CNN has the opposite. It's all liberal panelists and maybe one conservative. Here's Trump on the Russia ruse. He says Russia had nothing to do. He has nothing to do with Russia, and Russia had nothing to do with Hillary Clinton losing.
Well, I told you, General Flynn obviously was dealing, so that's one person, but he was dealing as he should have been.
During the election?
No, nobody that I know of.
So you're not aware of any context during the course of the election?
How many times do I have to answer this question?
Can you just say
Russia
yes or no
is
on
a
it?
ruse. Yeah, I know you have to get up and ask a question, so important. Russia is a ruse. I have nothing to do with Russia.
No.
Haven't made a phone call to Russia in years. Don't speak to people from Russia. Not that I wouldn't. I just have nobody to speak to. I spoke to Putin twice. He called me on the election. I told you this. And he called me on the inauguration a few days ago. We had a very good talk, especially the second one. Lasted for a pretty long period of time. I'm sure you probably get it because it was classified, so I'm sure everybody in this room perhaps has it.
All right, there he goes. He says, yeah, it was classified phone call, so I'm sure you guys got it. I thought that was kind of a nice slide at the very end. Now, some people in the media are going bat guano crazy. We'll get to Shepard Smith on Fox News yesterday. I thought his head was gonna explode. Chuck Todd took to Twitter yesterday and said that this is not a laughing matter. I'm sorry, delegitimizing the press is un-American. Press bashing may feel good to folks when it's done by people in power. It's corrosive. Take off your partisan hats for a second. Well, you go first, Chuck Todd, former Obama administration official, or George Stephanopoulos, former Clinton administration official, now leading a media show, leading a show on ABC. And that's another thing that nobody mentions is a lot of Democrats, when they work for Democrat administrations, they get into the media, like Stephanopoulos, like Todd. Dana Perino, she's on the 5, but she doesn't have her own show. But it's about time people went after the media. If you looked at the number of negative stories about Donald Trump during the election versus Hillary Clinton, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. There's no doubt that this is happening. And I think it's shameful. And as much as at times I was like looking at Acosta and I felt almost a little sympathy. I said, these are adults. These are adults who have chosen to parrot an ideology. And not only parrot an ideology, but also avoid stories, ignore stories. As my phone rings, let me just silence that. Okay, I don't know what it. All right, let's talk about some of the other reaction from media members. One of the most over the top yesterday was Shep Smith on Fox, and here he is.
But a good reporter. I mean, treating him like he's. I'm not even going to use the word. I'm not going to get Jim Acosta over there from CNN, an accomplished reporter, a guy I've never met, but a good reporter. I mean, treating him like he's. I'm not even going to use the word. I'm not going to give Twitter it's the love it needs. It's crazy what we're watching every day. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. He keeps repeating ridiculous throwaway lines that are not true at all, and sort of avoiding this issue of Russia as if we're some kind of fools for asking the question. Really? Your opposition was hacked and the Russians were responsible for it? And
no evidence of that.
Your people were on the phone with Russia on the same day it was happening, and we're fools for asking the questions? No, sir. We are not fools for asking these questions, and we demand to know the answer to this question. You owe this to the American people. Your supporters will support you either way. If your people were on the phone with her, what were they saying? We have a right to know. We absolutely do. And that you call us fake news and put us down like children for asking these questions on behalf of the American people is inconsequential. The people deserve that answer.
If that were true, Shepard, that would be wonderful. But it's not true of the media. All right? Because most of the media, they choose not to ask questions of some while going after others like sharks on chum. Thomas Friedman was on CNN talking about the presser yesterday and what he thought about it.
What worries me, I guess most, Wolf, right now, when I listen.
Friedman's with the New York Times.
Listen to this press conference is that, Trump basically, I think, has three things going for him right now. One is that he's very entertaining, and I fear that a lot of Americans are getting addicted to him. I fear that we in the media, and I don't exclude myself, are getting addicted to writing about him because it's just so easy to do, number one. And so he's got his entertainment value. Number two.
He makes it sound like you and I look at him like some sort of a clown. Yes, there's some spectacle involved with the guy. I mean, he's got an orange face and a bad comb over. He says things that are bombastic. I get that. But at the same time, don't forget that many of us, in fact, 55% of Americans right now, like the policy that he is espousing and the things that he's doing.
The stock market is going up, and there is the hope and expectation that jobs, will improve, that the economy will grow. And number three, there's no immediate pressing crisis. But I tell you, Wolf, if he stops being entertaining, if a crisis comes along.
That is so just condescending as hell to the American people.
And I think it's been very reckless on his part to boast about the stock market, because markets go up and down. Presidents should never talk about the Dow or the dollar. This could all really change. I think this is all throat clearing right now, but I have my seatbelt tightly fastened.
Well, hang on for the ride, because it's going to be a fun one. And by the way, the stock market was the only thing that kept the economy going during the Obama administration. All right, it was the only thing that kept the Obama administration going and the economy going was that the Fed was pumping in so much money and artificially inflating it, making a lot of people rich and the rest of us poor, by the way. One more cut from Donald Trump talking about how the media would treat his presser. And by the way, they kind of already are. And you heard, Shepard Smith. Here he is talking about how the media would report it.
I go to rallies. They turn around. They start screaming at CNN. They want to throw their placards at CNN. I think you would do much better by being different. But you just take a look. Take a look at some of your shows in the morning and the evening. If a guest comes out and says something positive about me, it's brutal. Now, they'll take this news conference. I'm actually having a very good time, okay? But they'll take this news conference. Don't forget, that's the way I won. Remember, I used to give you a news conference every time I made a speech, which was like every day, okay? No, that's how I won. I won with news conference and probably speeches. I certainly didn't win by people listening to you people, that's for sure. But I'm having a good time. Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people. But I'm not ranting and raving. I love this. I'm having a good time doing it. But tomorrow the headlines are going to be Donald Trump rants and... I'm not ranting and raving.
All right. Now, I haven't had a chance to digest a lot of the news media this morning. Obviously, we've had some reaction. I know that I heard Ann Coulter yesterday, and she was just giddy as a schoolgirl. Here's what Mr. Limbaugh said yesterday. He was listening in real time, and this, I believe, is right after the presser ended.
You know, it's hard to say. You get caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
But this was one of the most effective press conferences I've ever seen. The press is going to hate him even more after this. Don't misunderstand. When I say effective, I'm talking about rallying people who voted for him to stay with him. And he made a point of, what chaos? You people tell us, you're reporting there's chaos here. We're not in chaos. We're a well-oiled machine. We got one of the smoothest running machines in the history of machines. We got one of the best administrations in the history of administrations. And he rattled off the achievements they've had here that the media is not reporting because they're so focused on whether or not Trump worked with Russia to screw Hillary out of the presidency. And reassuring his people he's on top of it, nothing's changed, and everything that he campaigned on, he is doing. All he's doing is fulfilling campaign promises, and of course the Democrats don't like it, and of course the media doesn't like it, but it isn't going to stop him.
All right. We will see. As I've said for a very long time, it was going to be a wild ride, and press conferences and States of the Union will definitely be different. I mean, very definitely different. And if you see today on Fox, FoxNews.com, CNN.com, Jake Tapper says Trump was unhinged on CNN.com. Sean Hannity says Trump takes on the press, delivers a huge knockout. So, we've all got our take on it. Let's move on to some other stuff other than the Trump presser, although I do find it fascinating. Apparently, there are at least one gay group that is planning on doing something for Ash Wednesday coming up, which I feel, and Christians, we endure a lot, and we suffer through it, and we allow it to happen, whether that be an artist who puts a crucifix in urine, or whether whatever. When people talk badly about Christianity or Jesus Christ or our beliefs, we suffer through it. We don't go out and kill people. We don't espouse a caliphate. We don't want other faiths wiped off the face of the planet. This really bothers me. And this is, to me, I think the people who are in charge of this really don't know what the hell they're doing, and they don't realize how offensive it is. What they're going to do is, there's a website right now where you can order glitter. And they want to mix the glitter with the ashes on Ash Wednesday and do a glitter ash cross on people's foreheads. This website says glitter is an inextricable element of queer history. It's just unbelievable. Well, there've got to be a lot of gay people who go, you know what? I'm not all about rainbows, and I'm not all about glitter. It's how we have displayed our gritty, scandalous hope. Really? We make ourselves fabulously conspicuous. Fabulous, thank you. Giving offense to the arbiters of respectability that allows coercive power to flourish, blah, blah. Glitter and ash is an inherently queer sign of Christian belief, blending symbols of mortality and hope and penance and celebration. Glitter ash will be a powerful reminder of St. Augustine's teaching that we cannot despair because despair paralyzes, thwarting repentance and impeding the change that we are called to make. Glitter and ash exquisitely captures the relationship between death and new life. No, it doesn't. We did not live in fear. We did not live in fear of ash, of death. We place it on our foreheads for those in the world to see. And they want to mix glitter with it. Hashtag glitter Ash Wednesday. I find it offensive. I find it highly offensive. I think it doesn't speak to gay Christians at all. I think this is a lunatic fringe part of the LGBT community, and they don't realize how injurious this is. That's just me. Just me. Here's another story yesterday, and I don't believe it, by the way. Hate groups in the U.S. have proliferated over the past year as Donald Trump's successful bid for the presidency energized the far right, a new report claims. No, it energized the far left. It energized the far left to destroy. It energized the far left to organize not in a grassroots way, but in a paid fashion with money from people like the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, George Soros, among others. It energized the left. The left are the ones who are burning cars. The left are the ones who are wrecking storefronts. Back to the article. Anti-Muslim groups nearly tripled from 34 in 2015 to 101 in 2016. This according to the very left of center and very, you want to talk about fake news. The Southern Poverty Law Center, every time that there is a report of a Muslim being attacked by a Trump supporter, they've all turned out to be false. And the Southern Poverty Law Center runs it as real news and never retracts when it's found out that these hate crimes are not happening. This is, quote, Trump's run for the office electrified the radical right, which saw him a champion of the idea that America is fundamentally a white man's country. This, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, again, the SPLC, clearly nakedly political. The group counted 887 bias-related incidents in the first 10 days after Trump's election, including more than 300 that targeted immigrants or Muslims. That's a lie. 2016, there were 892 hate groups, the SPLC said. 2016, there were 917. KKK is among the hate groups counted. So are neo-Nazis, white supremacists. What about all these anarchist groups? What about Black Lives Matter? What about the Black Panthers? What about all of the 50 groups that were represented at the Women's March the day after the election? What about the 70 radical leftist groups that you saw visible violence reported on the news, and yet the news still called it a protest? All left of center groups. Everybody at the Women's March, right-leaning women who are pro-life, were not invited. And then the following week, there was a pro-life march. Not a single storefront was broken. Not a single police officer was injured. The SPLC says that hate groups are those who vilify entire communities based on unchangeable characteristics like race or ethnicity. Like the Black Panthers, saying that they want their own country. All right? The report also tracked black separatist groups, which are strongly anti-white and anti-Semitic, and which oppose interracial marriage. Here's what they say about the most hated, or I should say, hateful states. Hateful states. Number 5 is Pennsylvania with 40 hate groups. Number 4 is New York with 47. Number 3 is Texas with 55. Florida, 63. And California, oddly enough, number 1 with 79 hate groups. Hate groups. Steve Bannon, Trump strategist, says that the SPLC manufactures hate for fun and profit. And I agree. Donald Trump did not inspire the far right in this country. And I'm not saying that there aren't lunatic fringes on both sides, but the violence right now is coming from the left. The violence is coming from the left. That's just it. That's just it. This is kind of funny. February the 11th, Spokane County Sheriff Ozzie Nezovich was going to a hockey game benefiting law enforcement. He was on duty. He showed up, and he was told he had to return to the car and put his gun away. Would not be allowed into the game. This guy's on duty as a cop, all right? What kind of sense does that make? Well, it makes no sense, of course. The no weapons rule enacted at the Spokane Arena a few months ago snagged an unintended victim Saturday night with the sheriff. He arrived there and had to disarm. They disarmed me at the door, and I'm on duty. I had to go put my gun in the car. And then he tweeted, ran into a new level of insanity at the Spokane Arena tonight. They disarmed an on-duty law enforcement official tonight. Just amazing. Just amazing. That's the lunacy of the anti-gun movement. The radical anti-gun movement, the pro-gun control movement. This story actually went international. A police officer in St. Louis, Missouri, 22-year veteran, who was once picked as the department's liaison to the gay community, now suing the department for discrimination. This guy's named Keith Wildaber. He claims that he was passed over for promotion. And he was also He says that a member of the department's civilian police board said they need to tone down his gayness. All right? Now, first of all, this is a civilian police board. This is not the police department. This is not department policy, if it happened at all. The person who he met who said this, his name is John Saraceno. And apparently they met at his restaurant, and he said, you need to tone down the gayness or you're not going to move up. All right? This may or may not have happened. The department acknowledged his gayness and made him, said, we want you to be a liaison. All right? April 1st, 2016, Wildhaber filed a charge of discrimination with the U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission and Missouri Commission on Human Rights, alleging that he was unfairly passed up for advancement. About a month and a half later, the department reassigned him from afternoon shifts at the Afton precinct to midnights in the Jennings precinct, and that meant a 30-mile drive for him. Justice Department report critical of the St. Louis County Police response to Ferguson protests in 2014 suggested that the department create a diversity council to advise commanders on a recruitment and other issues regarding an array of people, including ethnic, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and linguistic minorities. This is where we are. We have to have special diversity panels. It's a load of hooey, and it's a waste of department resources as far as I'm concerned. All right. So anyway, in St. Louis, Police Chief Sam Dotson appointed a Lieutenant Colonel Angela Kuntz as the department's LGBT liaison about 3 years ago. The department also has had a recruitment booth at the Pride Fest diversity celebration for about the same amount of time. So that's what police departments have to do now. They have to go to Pride Fests and have diversity councils. We will see how it goes. Listen, my 30 minutes are up. I would love to stick around, but I know that you have things to do, and so we try to keep it into 30-minute bites or so on the podcast. Again, if you get a chance, check out the new website. It is robcarsonshow.com. Both Facebook pages, Facebook at Rob Carson Show. That is my show that you just heard. And then there's Rob Carson's Table, which is my food blog, where I like to talk about food and share lots of stories. In the meantime, have a glorious rest of your day. God bless you, and we will see you next time on the Rob Carson Show podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.